to the final part of Hurricane Week 2013 by Force 13, a fairly short part in comparison to the others that we've seen to wrap up the event. The past 3 months have been a whirlwind, most of it spent putting together the huge amount of content that we've seen this year. Whilst the Atlantic has dawdled, we've seen some impressive storms in the middle of all of this, and indeed there have been some devastating consequences in other regions. Those who have been affected by storms this year, and indeed many who may be still experiencing the aftermath of those, our thoughts from here in the UK are definitely with you. First of all, today, November the 30th, that's the recording date. The video might only go out tomorrow, but we'll see. Today is the second anniversary of Force 13's presence on YouTube, so we'll have a big round of applause somewhere, but there's not really anyone applauding here, so it's all quiet. But that's okay. So those of you who have been viewing a while, or indeed newcomers who have just come onto the scene, or those who have been around for the past 2 years, thank you for your support, thank you for viewing, thank you for commenting or doing whatever the hell you've been doing over the past month, a year, 2 years, or however long you've been watching our videos. And do keep viewing, and there's a big noise above me. Now, those of you who visit the website often will be aware of the year-round forecasting competition that was held this year, Predictor Season 2013. Those who are unfamiliar with the feature, it's where you can submit predictions for the Atlantic, Pacific, both East and West, and this year we introduced the North Indian Ocean as well. Now, we're near the end of the year, of course, and submissions close today on November the 30th, and I'm going to read out the current results. Obviously, we're near the end of the year, but there may still be time for 1 or 2 more storms to form, so these aren't quite final results, but maybe you could call them almost final results. So let's take a look at the overall standings. The top 20, I'll read through them now. In 20th place was Spencer's prediction from January with 50 points. In 19th position was X-Roy X with 2 X's on either side. I don't know why he did that, but that's okay. 52 points for you. Same too for Andrew 444, who's in 18th place. Don't forget, if there is a tie in the points, those are ordered by the person who predicted first goes higher than the person who predicted later on. In 17th place was Marsha with 53 points. In 16th place was G.Y. Evan New, N-O-U, with 54 points. In 15th place was Anticyclone, also with 54 points. In 14th place was Huskerfan with 57 points. In 13th, Colin, also with 57. Scott, also with 57 points. In 12th place, the Sandinator in 11th place with 59 points. In 10th it was J Courier 667, also with 59 points. In 9th place was Wendy G with 63 points. In 8th place was my own submission from January 2013 with 64 points. In 7th place was VCAS with an underscore in between with 65 points. 6th place was Devon, also with 65 points. In 5th was Anthony D 33331, how many threes do you need, with 65 points. In 4th place was my December prediction from last year, 2012, so that was a long time ago, with 67 points. In 3rd place was That Blue Pit with a prediction from a very long time ago as well. I remember that one coming in with 79 points, so that one was a really good prediction from a long way out. In 2nd place is Spencer with his March 2013 prediction. I'll get it right eventually, with 80 points, and in 1st place, just eclipsing that, is CES 15 Hurricanes with 82 points. That's the top 20 right now, and there's still a month yet, but we probably won't see too many more storms forming in the Northern Hemisphere. I'd certainly don't think it's likely that we'll see any storms in the Atlantic or in the East Pacific now, because the season's officially ending in both of those regions. So I'll just go quickly through the top 5 by each basin. In the Atlantic, in 5th place was Spencer's January 13 prediction with 24 points. 4th place was Jeffrey with 24 as well. Spencer's February prediction with 25 points in 3rd place. CES 15 Hurricanes in 2nd place with 26. And at Nut N in 1st place with 28 points. He wins the Atlantic side. In the East Pacific, the top 3, Spencer for March 13 with 25 points. In 2nd place, Colin with 26. And in 1st place was TS Debbie with a smile at the end of their prediction with 26 points in total, who led the Eastern Pacific season so far. In the Western Pacific, the top three, Anthony D 33331 with 33 points, ironically, all the threes there in third place. In second place was my January prediction for the Western Pacific, which had 35 points, but because Devon's submission came just a little bit earlier, he gets first place also with 35 points, which is just off the top amount of marks you could get for that region. And finally, in the Indian Ocean, the top three here. In third place was Andres with 18 points. In second place, That Blue Pit with 18 points as well. And in first place was my prediction from December 2012, also with 18 points. That's the second highest amount of points you can get for the North Indian Ocean. The highest amount possible was 20. The next Predictor Season contest for 2014 storms will open on December the 5th. And we'll have a few alterations when it's ready. Now, I understand that after you submit a prediction for Predictor Season, you're sort of sitting around waiting for the results for 11 months, so perhaps you may also be interested in entering Predictor Storm, a relatively new feature on the Force 13 website. So how does it work? Well, this feature allows you to predict future storms in the Atlantic and the East Pacific, and will also be opening out to Western Pacific typhoons on December the 2nd. That's this coming Monday, I believe. It allows you to predict a formation and dissipation date, as well as how long you think it will spend as a tropical storm, hurricane, or major hurricane, or indeed its equivalent in the Western Pacific in the case of that one. You can also predict its peak wind speed and minimum central pressure and landfall intensity. For more information, take a look at the Predict a Storm page, and you may also want to check out the help page before you predict, which will probably give you a few things and hints and stuff like that to think about before you do that. So throughout the week I've seen all the comments come in on the videos, and I'll be replying to some of them here. First of all, I've noticed a few comments come up about possible pronunciation errors and other little things here and there throughout the videos. Well, all I can say about that is I guess you can't get everything perfectly right when you're doing 8 hours of content within 90 days, but I'll try and work on the pronunciation if that's an issue. You'll be hearing some more errors now because there are some specific questions asked by some users. So first of all, Paidi Gwynha, apologies for any pronunciation errors, says, if you were to give Haiyan a rating in the top cyclones, what would it be? Now, that's an interesting question. Now, I'm guessing they're relating it to the feature that we did last year, which covered the top 100 storms. Haiyan is certainly up there. For one of the most intense, deadliest storms that have made landfall. I mean, given that it's made landfall at such a high intensity, possibly the highest we've ever seen, is certainly saying something. So I can't really answer on the spot. I would put it in the top 3, I would say. And they also ask why I didn't include Typhoon Fito in one of the latest parts, because it did cause a lot of damage, $6.7 billion in China when it struck as a Category 1 typhoon, I believe it was, or possibly a little bit stronger, I can't remember exactly now. It was a little bit of a rush towards the end when we're putting the final parts together, so it didn't quite make the cut, but it is included, at least in a little section, on the 2013 storm summaries. Maybe in future we'll do a feature on Typhoon Fito, if necessary. And Carrie Amazement says, without an E in their name by the way, can you do the 2009 Pacific hurricane season? Just to let you know, that one has already been finished in the past. If you're talking about the Eastern Pacific hurricane season, that was done quite a while ago. Just search it on the Force 13 channel, and hopefully you should find it and enjoy watching it. Now, some of you have also requested animations. There's a few of them out there. If you wish to request one, you can see the request list on the YouTube channel's About page. If you wish to request one, just contact me and I'll stick it on that request list, and over the next few weeks, or however long it may take, I'll put them all together. So now let's take a look at the 2013 in the Northern Hemisphere. Firstly, in the Atlantic, it's been a somewhat quiet season here, and for a while it seemed as though we wouldn't get any hurricanes at all, though it did happen in the end. Humberto changed that in September, followed not too long later by Ingrid. They were both Category 1 hurricanes in the Atlantic and made landfall. Ingrid made landfall at that intensity. There were 13 tropical storms in the end, which is still the 29th highest we've seen since 1851. Along with this, there were 2 hurricanes, which is the lowest amount we've seen in 31 years. And of course, there were no major hurricanes at all, which is the first time that's happened in the Atlantic since 1994. Meanwhile, in the Eastern Pacific, it was more active, though it wasn't for Hurricane. But though if it wasn't for Hurricane Raymond, it would have been the first time since 1968 in which we didn't see a major hurricane in either the Eastern Pacific or the Atlantic basins. But it did happen in the end, so that was avoided. There were 20 tropical storms, 8 hurricanes, and 1 major hurricane in the Eastern Pacific, meaning that this year was the 10th busiest on record, just behind 2009, which was in 9th place. All places above that were from the Eastern Pacific's most active period in the 1980s and in the early 90s, including 1983, whose strongest storm was also Raymond, tied with Kiko that year, both peaking as 145 mph Category 4 storms. In the Western Pacific, it was also a fairly active season, featuring 26 tropical storms, 15 typhoons, and 10 Category 3 storms or higher. These are our totals, others may be slightly different. This makes it the 32nd busiest typhoon season on record, and the busiest one we've had since 2004. With 15 typhoons, it was slightly below the average total of 15.9, and with 10 typhoons of Category 3 intensity or higher, that makes it slightly above the average of 9.2. However, this year, of course, featured one of the strongest storms ever recorded in the form of Haiyan, possibly making the strongest landfall we've seen in modern times, as I said earlier. So that leaves me to say, what is the future for Force 13? Well, through the Northern Hemisphere's off-season months, which is the next few months of course, you'll probably see a lot more full-season and hypothetical hurricane season animations being uploaded, and I'll be operating mostly by the requests of users. So if you have an animation you'd like to see, I'll do my best to fulfill it if possible. In late March, the Southern Hemisphere's regions will be featured in the format you've seen here at Hurricane Week 2013, and at the beginning of May 2014 is another feature that I'll be running, Cyclone Education Week, reporting from across the pond. I have to be honest when I say that the future of Force 13 beyond next May is uncertain, due to a lot of personal commitments which really can't be helped. But as always throughout the year, and for those long-standing followers who have seen Force 13 since its inception, if I can get my words out, back in November 2011, and indeed to the previous count I had, because I uploaded some videos on there which date way back to September 2010, and I know that some of you have been following even that long. Thanks as always for your support, no matter how long you've been following Force 13 for. Those of you who remember the tropical weather bulletins from the early part of this year, I know a lot of you enjoyed those, and now we're going to show you a special mock-up one from the date that I was born, the rather boringly quiet day that was February the 2nd, 1995. Hello there, 119 days until the hurricane season starts in the Atlantic and the Eastern Pacific. It's February the 2nd, 1995. It's the 33rd day of the year. In the world tropics right now, we currently have 2 areas of interest right now, both in the southern Indian Ocean. That's all we have going on right now. One on either side of 90 degrees east. One we've been tracking for a short while now, far to the northeast of Mauritius, and another one located towards the southwest of Indonesia. This is the Pacific Ocean view right now. We have our eyes on that area of interest towards the left-hand side of your screen there, not too far from the Indonesian coastline. Could develop into a tropical storm as it moves towards the southwest. Elsewhere, you can see quite a few tropical bits of activity here and there in the Australian region, in parts of the equatorial western Pacific, but nothing that looks like it's going to form anytime soon. The Atlantic, as you would expect at this time of year, is fairly quiet. No tropical disturbances at all to note, and it doesn't appear that there's too much going on in the Eastern Pacific from that view either right now, but as I say, to be expected at this time of year, a long way until the start of the season here. Now looking at the southwest Indian Ocean, which you can see at the far right of your image, we have an area of interest, another area of interest located towards the east-northeast of Madagascar, quite far towards the northeast of Mauritius, and that could move towards the southwest over the next few days. So looking at the sea surface temperatures right now, any areas marked in yellow or redder than yellow are 26 degrees Celsius or higher, which is warm enough to sustain tropical cyclone activity. You can see quite a lot of the southern Pacific, certainly warm enough to sustain tropical cyclones, and a small swathe of the northern hemisphere near the equator, which is conducive there. The Atlantic is looking similarly so, only the Caribbean warm enough to support tropical cyclones right now, and we're not likely to see any over the next few days at least, or indeed much longer than that, as the case may be. But there's the current situation. Cooler waters off to the north, as you'd expect for this time of year. The Indian Ocean remaining fairly warm right now. The whole of the central part of the Indian Ocean, fairly warm temperatures, certainly enough to sustain tropical cyclone development. Looking at those two areas of interest, they're in warm enough waters for a good while yet. The next few days or so we could see some development of both of those storms, but we'll see what happens. So here's the forecast for the first area of interest. Currently the wind speeds of 35 miles per hour sustained and a pressure of 1010 millibars right now. Its current position is 12.3 degrees south, 71.5 degrees east as of 12 AM on February 2nd. The storm's expected to stall for the next day or two, as it has been already for the past 24 hours or so, before beginning to move towards the south and then possibly towards the southwest. Could possibly pose a threat towards Mauritius, but it doesn't look too likely at this time. But you never know, the storm may turn a little bit more towards the west than what we're forecasting. We'll see what happens over the next few days. We'll probably get a clearer idea as the storm begins to move more decidedly towards the southwest, or wherever it decides to go. The second area of interest, currently the wind speeds of 20 miles per hour and a pressure also of 1010 millibars. Current positions 11.9 degrees south, 95.7 degrees east. And this one's moving fairly slowly at the moment towards the south, but we're likely to see a bit more acceleration over the next few days as it begins to move a little bit more towards the west, a little bit more of a westward element into its movement, and then the storm will likely move towards the southwest and possibly become a tropical storm over the next few days. It is over the open Indian Ocean, so we're not anticipating a strong storm, but we could see a moderate tropical storm over the next few days as it progresses towards the southwest. The storm probably won't live too much longer than 5 days or so. So let's look at the Atlantic and Eastern Pacific. Full disk imagery right now. I've managed to grab a cool animation over the past 12 to 18 hours or so of visible imagery, where you can see not too much going on though in this region. It's the only imagery we could actually gather over the past 24 hours or so that actually creates this nice little animation. But you can see no areas of interest in that region, the Atlantic or Eastern Pacific right now. So on this day, February the 2nd, in 1971, Cyclone Helga formed in the southwest Indian Ocean. 2 years later, in 1973, Cyclone Hortense dissipated in the same region. In 1976, pictured Cyclone Frances formed in the southeast Indian Ocean, and the next year, in 1977, Cyclone Emily made landfall in Madagascar as a tropical storm. In 1978, Cyclone Vern made landfall in Western Australia as a Category 1 cyclone. In 1982, Cyclone Graham dissipated over Western Australia. There it is making landfall. In 1984, Cyclone Gailey made landfall in Madagascar as a tropical storm. That same year, Cyclone Willie formed in the southeast Indian Ocean. In 1990, Cyclone Opha passed Samoa as a Category 3 cyclone, causing 7 fatalities here and damages of $130 million. There it is pictured at peak intensity. In 1992, Hurricane Akika peaked as a Category 3 storm in the Central Pacific. That one's also pictured. In 1993, Cyclone Lena dissipated near Western Australia. And last year, 1994, Cyclone Geraldo made landfall in Madagascar as a Category 3 storm, causing 304 fatalities and damages of at least $10 million. There it is pictured at its peak intensity. Quite a storm that one was as well. So let's review all the storms we'll have this year then. In the Atlantic, we'll have tropical storms Alison, Barry, Chantal, Dean, Erin, Felix, Gabrielle, Humberto, Iris, Jerry, Karen, Luis, Marilyn, Noel, Opal, Pablo, Roxanne, Sebastian, Tanya, Van and Wendy. In the Eastern Pacific, we will have Adolphe, Barbara, Cosme, Delilah, Eric, Flossie, Gil, Henriette, Ishmael, Juliet, Kiko, Lorena, Manuel, Nada, Octave, Priscilla, Raymond, Sonia, Tico, Velma, Wallace, Zena, York and Zelda. In the Central Pacific, the names are Oliwa, Paka, Upana and Ween. And with the wonders of the internet, you can now track any of these storms at our brand new website, force13.com/storm tracking is the page to go on your address bar. And don't forget, you can still order Force 13's monthly storm updates in print, where we have all the information about every storm that formed in the past month, released on a monthly basis. Please contact us for more details. The Western Pacific storm names this year, starting at list 4: Chuck, Dina, Ellie, Faye, Gary, Helen, Irving, Janice, Kent, Lois, Mark, Nina,
Oscar, Polly, Ryan, Sybil, Ted, Val, Ward, Yvette and Zach, which we couldn't fit on that page there. And in the North Indian Ocean, no storms have formed here yet. Obviously they're not named over in the Indian Ocean. Hurricane Week 95 is to go out on the last week of May this year, featuring the Atlantic hurricanes of the 1980s. It's certainly going to be a very interesting documentary style video series, which hopefully you'll enjoy very much. But that's all for this tropical weather bulletin. We'll have more in the next few days. That's all for now.
Now it just leaves me to say thank you for watching the whole of Hurricane Week, if you have done, or just the bits that you're interested in, or none of it at all as the case may be, and hope to see you again soon. Thanks for watching.